All right, today we coming to you with another episode of Auto Glass Tech Talk, and we got a super special guest with us here today, right? We kind of pivoting and not really talking auto glass because we're talking about mental health because mental health matters, right? And today's guest, she's a licensed clinical psychologist. She's a self-care expert. She's a professor. She's an author. She got a lot of accolades. So let me introduce to you Dr. Robyn Gobin. What's good, Robyn?
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, good morning. Okay, so I'll jump right into it. With a lot of, new owners and people starting their businesses, it's easy to get burned out. What are some tips to combat that?
Yeah, one of my main tips for combating burnout is just seeing if it's possible for you to incorporate so what I call mini breaks throughout your day. So a lot of times I know in my field, people will like have meetings back to back. I don't know with repair, sometimes people might schedule them back to back. And so if you're just constantly like trying to get the next, repair, that could bring on a lot of burnout. And also I would imagine that for each repair, you're doing a lot of repetitive action, and so that can create a lot of tense, muscles in your body, create a lot of tension, and so being able to, like, take, like, mini breaks, even if it's, like, 2 or 3 minutes in between, tasks, that could be really helpful, to just kind of, like, ground yourself and reset yourself and help your body to be relaxed when you're going into a repair. I would imagine that if your body is relaxed, that you're gonna have a better repair. Also, I would suggest too, like, trying to mix and match different tasks that you're doing throughout your day. So some of the tasks that you might be doing might be more high stress things, like trying to get the next sale or trying to get the next repair versus things that you can maybe do that are less complex or less stressful, like doing prep work or documentation, billing the insurance company. So trying to kind of like mix up the type of tasks that you're doing in a day so that you're not like just back to back to back with high stress activities that could also support your self care and wellness and help to reduce burnout.
That's great. I think that's that's pretty spot on there. I mean, yeah, we get so stuck in that like repair, 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 replace, and then after that it's invoice, 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 and it just it's the same thing every day over and over. And I guess we don't realize that you're just so in the same pattern over and over.
Yeah. So I got a question for you, Robin. So people be online, right? You know it on Instagram, Twitter, social media, wherever you're at on social media. People always see other people doing something. They measure themselves off of that, like, hey, I'm not doing a lot, I'm doing too much, or like, damn, why can't I get what they get? And people struggle with imposter syndrome, right? So what's some ways to kind of combat that, or how do you kind of handle that being like we have to be online because we're trying to reach other customers and get a sale. We also trying to educate people, but we also are in a lot of these groups and we see what our peers are doing. So what's some ways of like handling imposter syndrome and actually overcoming it?
Yeah, I think a huge piece of it is just remembering like why you got into doing the work that you're doing anyway. Like, what was it about windshield repair, windshield replacement that said, like, I want to do this, I want to actually make this a career? And what did you believe about yourself that you could bring that was unique to that position? And so I think you have to recalibrate often and remind yourself, like, even if it's an affirmation that you say to yourself, like in the mornings before you go to work, like reminding yourself, like, this is why I do the work that I do, and this is what I uniquely bring that nobody else can bring. I, also like to remind myself, like, there's no shortage of like coffee spots, there's no shortage of churches. And you would think that people would be like, oh, there's too many churches, so I'm not gonna open a new one, but they still open a new one because they feel like they believe that they bring something unique that the church down the street or the coffee house down the street is not bringing. You would think Starbucks, like, I should never open another, like, mom and pop coffee shop because Starbucks has the market on lock. But no, like, people every day are opening, like, pastry shops or coffee shops because they believe that they bring something unique to the table. So I think you have to stay grounded in understand what is it unique that I bring to the table, and you have to believe that there is a market for what you bring. Yes, other people might be like killing it and look like they're doing great, and that's because they're thriving in their lane. So can you find your lane and thrive in your lane and consistently remind yourself of this is what I bring that's different, that's unique, and I'm going to operate in that gift so that people see that, they feel that energy, and they want to, patronize my services.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. I hope that when people, like, watch this, they take a step back and think about that because I know I sure was when you were saying that. And, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a reason we all got into anything that we're doing, we had a passion or a love for it or something that, really draw us in. Um, that's a really good one. Um Okay, so sometimes techs, have bad days, repairs don't fill, bad replacements, bad customers, you get a lot of bad stuff sometimes just coming all on you at once. What's a good some good mindful tips to help them in that situations?
I think, it's gonna sound very simple, but I think just to pause, like, I think a lot of times you can get really worked up and frustrated, rightfully so, when the repair is not feeling, when, the replacement is being stubborn. And so I think just taking a moment to breathe, because you can't really do anything well when you're frustrated. You just get yourself more frustrated, right? So I think just to pause and breathe. I think another piece too with mindfulness tool, um, is to really kind of try to adopt or embrace this concept of what we call beginner's mind. And what that really means is looking at something that's routine or familiar to you through fresh eyes, like looking at it as if it was you were doing it for the first time. So if you were working on a repair or a replacement, the last time you tried to feel it like it didn't work, you might go into the next repair replacement and anticipate, oh, I know what's gonna happen. I know that it's gonna mess up, or I know that it's not going to work out, or the whole day has been going crazy. And so I know it's just going to continue to go this way. But instead of just expecting that what's going to happen, you embrace, like, no, like the last replacement was the last replacement. This is the brand new replacement. I cannot predict what's going to happen. So I'm going to go into it with this kind of like, I've never done this before. This is my first replacement. And I think bringing that energy and bringing that sense of like curiosity will help you to not kind of like bring in maybe the residual frustration from the times that you tried that previously and it hasn't worked out well for you. So I think, yeah, just taking a moment to pause, to breathe, like even if you're interacting with the customer and it's a stressful interaction and they just said something to you that really pissed you off and you want to come back at them, instead of like immediately coming back, can you just like pause and take a breath? Think, check in with yourself, and then speak. I've even, as a therapist, done trainings and workshops, and you would be surprised, like just before you respond to a client, just taking a moment to breathe makes your response much different than if you're just like acting on autopilot and you feel like this pressure to just like keep going and keep talking to them and trying to help them. But if you just give yourself permission to breathe, to pause, to check in with yourself, give yourself some compassion, like this is challenging, this is hard, but I've done hard things before in the past, and I will do this hard thing and live to see another day.
That's really good. Yeah.
There you go.
So that's something that I've myself actually been working on is, like, stop and think. Um, just stop for a moment and think before you just spout it off, 'cause I've learned in my younger years, that doesn't always work out the best. So, definitely, having a positive mindset and, not being so, like, negative or down on yourself just because 'cause you're having a, bad time and really just stop for a moment and think what you're saying. It's helped me a lot so far, so I think that's
Yeah.
really good
Yeah, you
advice.
wanna think about, like, it can be, do you want it to be a bad moment or a bad repair or a bad day? And you have the choice, right? Like, by your mindset, by your outlook, it doesn't have to be a terrible day just because maybe the morning started off, in a way that you didn't want it to.
Yeah, nah, you said a word with that. Like, you get to control how the rest of your day gonna go. This could be just one bad job, it's an isolated incident, or this shit can carry on. So, appreciate you for those practical pieces there. And I got one for you, right? So, a lot of people, myself included, right? We work, 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 right? It's 24/7. We grinding, and a lot of people are like owner, operator. And so when they finish work, they got to do paperwork, or they trying like, oh, let me catch up on my social media to try to get more business. And you kind of can get, like you mentioned earlier, you can get burnt out, but not trying to get burnt out on work. But what are some self-care things so you can kind of have like that balance of work and like have some fun and not just always be engulfed in work and just 24/7 work mode?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is to set boundaries. So I know I've gotten like mixed responses with this one. So I've talked to folks about like, setting a time about, like, when is gonna be the last time that I check my email for the day? Like, when am I gonna stop work for the day? And, like, really, taking it seriously, like, putting the, alarm on your phone. It's like at 5 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, whatever time you choose, I'm not gonna do any work after this time. I'm just gonna be present with my family. I'm gonna feed myself. I'm gonna sleep. Just so that you can kind of have that boundary set because if it were up to you, you probably just keep going, but are you going in a way that is really energized? Are you going in a way that's, like, maximally, using your creativity and your gifts and everything that you bring to the table? And the answer would be no. If you're constantly going 24/7, you're never taking time to recharge, to rest, to even eat lunch, like, to fuel yourself, so set boundaries is my first thing, even though it can be challenging, it can be hard, you can feel like, "Well, somebody's gonna email me right after I get off email." They will be there tomorrow, and you just have to trust, like, it will get done, like, you can't get everything done in one day anyway, so just setting that boundary for yourself in the service of your mental health, knowing that if I take care of myself mentally, if I take care of myself, emotionally, I'm gonna be a better entrepreneur for the work that I'm doing, and people are gonna get a better version of me rather than the burnt out version of me. So that's first, setting boundaries. Second, I would say play. Like, I feel like as adults, play gets a bad rap. We feel like that's something that's reserved for when we were children and we have to be serious all the time. But I would say, like, when is the last time that you did something just because you enjoyed it? There was no productivity connected to it, nothing that you weren't gonna make money from it, but it was just something that you enjoy, that you like doing. Like, reconnect with those things because that side of you, that engaging with play, is going to help you to just, like, feel more excited about your life. It's gonna give you an outlet, something to think about that's different than just your work, because I feel like it's super important to not get so sucked in your identity as an entrepreneur or whatever work that you do, that you forget that you exist outside of that and you bring, you talent and value outside of just what you do to make money. So, those are my 2 tips. Set boundaries and play. Don't forget to play and do things that you enjoy just for the pleasure of it.
That's great. So, it sounds like you've been around a lot of auto glass people.
I feel like
That's
I
a
should get, like, an honorary, I don't know, something
I think
Nah,
for
that's
being
so.
what's
to Corey, as he's been in the field for so long. I have picked up a lot.
nah,
Yeah.
that's what's
No, that's a sorry, go ahead.
I was saying that's what's up with giving like good information and advice. And I got one last one for you. So a lot of people we talking about mental health right here, but like the mental aspect of it, but also with a lot of people, and this is a shout out to Drift because he actually made me take my physical health more serious and try to work out. So how can we like people like put the two together, right? Mental health and physical health. Because health is wealth. So you want to take care of your mental and take care of your physical. So you got any tips on like how
Absolutely.
keeping both of those two together?
Yeah, no, I think it's hugely important, and research has shown that when you take care of yourself physically, like, it actually gives you mental health benefits, like, it increases the endorphins that are in your system, and it can increase some of those positive neurotransmitters that, signal to your body and your brain that you are, you're happy, and that gives you energy to do other things, so I think definitely thinking about the 2 things in tandem, because if you're not physically well, then how can you actually do the work that you're doing? But also, if you're not mentally well, that's gonna impact your motivation, that's gonna impact your ability to think creatively about the work that you do. I know that as entrepreneurs, you always have to be, like, on top of, like, what the industry standards are. You have to be on top of, like, pivoting if something isn't working, and if you aren't taking care of your mental health, and if you're just, like, burnt out or depressed or drained all the time, you're not gonna be able to say, like, "How can I tackle these barriers or these, roadblocks that I'm encountering in the work that I'm doing in a way that's gonna keep me profitable and keep me doing this work for the long term," because it's really about sustainability. And so if you're not taking care of your body, you're not gonna be able to sustain in this work that's highly physical that you all are doing. But then on the other hand, if you're not taking care of yourself, mentally, you're not gonna be able to sustain either. So they really do go hand in hand, and it's super important. And I also would just like do a plug for mental health. Like a lot of times people think, well, I have to see a therapist, and they talk about like barriers to therapy. A lot of therapists do provide sliding scale fees, so it's not always super out of your price range or expensive. Also, a lot of insurance companies, if you have benefits, will be able to take a psychologist will take those benefits, and so you only are paying a copay for the services, so it's not a huge financial burden for you. But then also, there's a lot of self help books out there that will support you in maintaining your mental health outside of just the therapy context. So there's a lot of options that you have with regard to supporting your mental health, which is also going to support your physical health.
There you
That's
go.
really good. Okay, I got a question to add to that too.
Yeah.
So what would you say would be a good amount of time per day for someone to, I guess, stop and just take care of themselves? Like maybe a half hour, an hour, somewhere in
Yeah.
there?
I appreciate this question because the biggest roadblock that I get when I'm talking to people about self-care is I don't have time and I don't need another thing to put on my to-do list because I'm already busy. And so I tell people that it's more about quality over quantity. So even if you have just 5 minutes in the morning when you first get up, like because most of us, I've been guilty of it. The first thing that you grab in the morning is your cell phone and you start scrolling social media, but think about, like, is there something that I could do with the first 5 minutes of my day when I first open my eyes that will actually pour back into me, that will help me to show up as the best version of myself for all of the things that I'm gonna tackle today. I've, had a teacher one time talk about it like, tuning your instrument. So thinking about yourself is like this instrument that's gonna go out into the world and do the work that you're gonna do. And so if you are in an orchestra and if you played the violin, no serious musician would ever play the violin on stage for people without first tuning that instrument. And so you are the instrument that's going out and doing this work that you're doing every day, but you haven't tuned it before you've done it. So you can play it, but what's the sound that's emitting when you're doing that? So if you think about yourself in that analogy, like how can I set myself up to show up as the best version of myself for this work that I'm doing and kind of buffer myself against some of the stress that I know is inevitable, whether it's just breathing, whether it's saying a prayer, reading a devotional, whether it's exercising, like the stretching for 5 minutes, doing what's doable for you, and also being flexible with that. One day you might just have 5 minutes, another day you might have the full 30 minutes. And it's about checking in with yourself to see, okay, I have to know myself because what's gonna fuel you might be different than what's gonna fuel me. So checking in with yourself and saying, okay, what can I do with the time and resources that I have right now? And knowing that that might change next week or next month.
Love that. That was an
Yeah.
awesome answer. Thank you.
Yeah, nah, we appreciate you for all the advice and things you give. And I know you make social media posts every day. For the other people that don't know you, how can they follow you on social media? Or I know you got self-care books and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
tell everybody else more. So tell us more.
Yeah, so I can be found on all social media platforms. It's at Dr. Robyn Gobin, Robin with the Y, Gobin with the I. And as far as my books, yes, I have had the opportunity to write self self-care books, and so would love to have you read those. There's a lot of unbiased, reviews on Amazon. You can get those on Amazon. So it's the self-care prescription as well as the self-care prescription journal. And if you're wanting to start your mental health journey, there's the Doing My Work therapy journal, all again available on Amazon. You can read reviews that have not been influenced by me to see how they've really benefited other people's lives. And it's a great way to start your self care journey if you're really wanting to get serious about taking care of yourself so that you can be able to do the work that you do for the long run in a sustainable manner.
There you go. Well, we appreciate you for taking time out of your busy day to help us get better and more educated when it comes to mental health. So, shout out for the mental health part of it, for the mindfulness, and for the self care. And for anyone who ever have any questions, check out robingobin.com as a website or hit up on social media. She dropped good practical posts every single day on social media. So, appreciate both of y'all for y'all time, and y'all take care.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
Robin.
having me. Bye.